We head into the final round of the iRacing IMSA Sportscar Championship here on Apex Racing TV. A short hop from last week's round at Mosport in Canada. We are here at Montreal for the final round of the iRacing IMSA Sportscar Championship here on Apex Racing TV. My name's Scott Newton. Alongside me as always, Dan Leet. Welcome, Dan. A couple of weeks ago we had the AMF GT series here. As you'll see that some of the drivers from that championship alongside us tonight, but what are your thoughts heading into tonight's IMSA event tonight?
Yeah, good evening, Scott, and all the viewers tuning in. Last week or a couple of weeks ago, as you say, we saw an absolutely fantastic race for AMF here, and I think we're going to be in for somewhat similar event tonight. Montreal circuit that always has a lot of great opportunities for passing, especially down into 10, and that final run up through the wall of champions there always creates a little bit of chaos throughout the course of the event. But all in all, I think knowing what we know from the drivers that are taking part in it tonight, we should be up for some cracking racing all around.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at the weather for tonight's event, we've got afternoon conditions, 23 degrees ambient, 26 through his track temperature. Quite a bit of cloud out there, so plenty of grip out there for the drivers. Wind is at a west-northwesterly at 8 kilometers an hour, so should be quite grippy out there for the drivers. A little bit tricky through the chicanes there, but in qualifying at the moment, see that John Peasnick is currently on the provisional pole position with a 1 minute 30.1. Darren Lobb, who had a very, very strong event at the AMF GT series when we're here at Montreal, currently in the second position. Also Danny Davison in third, Liam Vandenberg in the fourth position as well. So AMF drivers certainly putting on a great show for all of their teams here tonight.
Yeah, definitely, and likewise in the GT 3 class at the moment, Eric Thorpe and Clint Smith heading that little group of cars as well, so great to see those guys still being very, very competitive as well. But I think for the guys that ran AMF here a couple of weeks ago, really going to be in a good position. Obviously difference in going from fixed setup to the open setup that they do run, but getting some practice laps wherever possible around this circuit, especially when it's so early in the week, is always a bonus.
Yeah, certainly, with the broadcast normally being on a Tuesday, being the first day of the week, obviously it's quite tricky for the drivers, as you say, having to be prepared at least 1 week in advance. But throughout the seasons that we've been broadcasting IMSA Sportscar Championship here on Apex Racing TV, we've always had some cracking racing, and it's always been a credit to the drivers that have always turned up week in, week out, putting on the show for everyone tuning in and for us as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's really been a series that's always had everything going on well. See Trevor Anderson putting a lap in as well in the Haribo Mercedes, and that's going to be a crucial point to keep an eye out for him, for guys hitting that final wall through turn 14 there.
Yeah, and sadly that'll invalidate his lap, currently in the fourth position. Just trying to see if there's any other drivers on the track at the moment, if I can bring up Libimish Fights, driver for Bila Racing Euronics, trying to improve on his 30.9, and I don't think he did because his time did not update, so it must have had an invalidated lap from somewhere. So sadly he doesn't improve and sits fifth at the moment.
Yeah, a little bit further down probably the order than where ideally he'd want to be. 8/10 off on the best at the moment. There's a pretty big gap covering the guys from first down through to fifth at the moment. And that's the top 5 cars too, also in that 1 minute 30 range. After that, we'll see the guys dropping back into the 131s and 132s respectively.
Yeah, but just a minute of qualifying left. There's only a couple of drivers that haven't put it in times at the moment. One of those drivers is Osmar Schultz, the Brazilian driver in the Mercedes, currently sitting in 9th position. 10th as one of the GT drivers. I think that was Hendrik Cruz. Moves up into 3rd position. But coming around the hairpin, I'll see if we can go on board for the rest of the lap here. coming up to the final chicane where the wall of championships is located. Hard on the brakes there, going a little bit too hard on the brakes, I think, just losing that momentum through the middle of the corner, and sadly not able to finish his lap as the checkered flag has come out, and we'll be able to take you through the grid for the final round of Season 4 2019 of the iRacing IMSA Sportscar Championship here on Apex Racing TV. So John Peasnick takes the overall pole position with a time of 1 minute 30.135, separated by only 6,000ths of a second was Darren Lobb, so very, very close there between the two of those drivers. Danny Davison in third position, Ville Lotianen in the fourth position, Liebermir Schweiz in the fifth, Bruno Spengler sixth, Lee Vandenberg in seventh, Victor Suarez in eighth, Luca Fiocchi in ninth, and rounding out the top 10 is Andrew Himbury. In the 11th is Livio Mori and Christopher Vertanen in the 12th position. 13th is Sean Carnavon. 14th is Petteri Alto. Adrian Lecti in the 15th position. Marcelo Valenti in 16th. Christian Arst in the 17th position. Jason Muscat. 18th Peter Coulson. 19th, and rounding out the top 20 is Romain Leclerc. Colin Hayes in the 21st position, Ankit Tiagi in the 22nd position, Barnabas Rana in the 23rd, Vernon Wiley 24th, Jonathan Gurenan in the 25th position, and rounding out the GTE field, Zach Meyer. Clint Smith takes the GT3 pole position with a time of 1 minute 33.061. Been very, very consistent for him, being on the pole position pretty much every week in the GT3s. Eric Thorpe second, Hendrik Cruz, Sven Beber in the third and fourth position, Trevor Anderson, Gabriel Rizzo, Adam Simpson, Kyle Ridley. As we're just running out the GT field, Chris Harvey, Osmar Schultz, Jason Proctor, Mick Grieve, and Chris Taylor rounding out the GT3 field. Massive grid here for the IMSA Sportscar Championship. 39 cars on the grid tonight, so quite a challenge with the short pace lap. But yeah, we're pretty much ready to get out of the way, and Pearson getting a great start. Darren Lobb sitting in second, Danny Davison in third, Liebermir Schweiz getting the advantage over Ville Lottinen. And into turn one they go. Looks as though that we've got one of the Ferraris off, and that's Livio Mori, who's around. Unfortunate for the Ferrari driver there, trying to get underway, and in the GT3 field, Clint Shane Smith getting the jump over Eric Thorpe. And pretty much everyone in the GT3 category, Osmar Schultz up 2 positions, Kyle Ridley down 3 positions at the moment. So most of the drivers out there have had fairly clean starts out there.
Yeah, it's been generally pretty good all around. We just saw another car off in the background as we saw Clint going through turn 7 there. One of the Ferraris, didn't quite catch who that was, so Muscat has turned that car around as well. So he's going to drop a long way down the order as he has to wait for everyone to clear. So good avoidance to let everyone through, but up front, Darren Lobb continuing on as we saw at AMF, and himself and John Peasnick really starting to open up quite a big gap now over Lee Vandenberg, Danny Davison, sitting in pretty good company with Liebermir Schweiz. Probably the big one to keep an eye on tonight. We do have one professional driver out there in the form of Bruno Spengler, BMW Works driver as well. So be interesting to see how he gets on with these cars. Obviously very different to what he drives traditionally, but coming from the real world to the iRacing, will be very, very good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Spengler sitting up in the 6th position at the moment, trying to challenge Ville Lottinen. In the Ferrari just up ahead, he's 6/10 of a second behind the Ferrari driver. So that Vandenberg potentially serving a slowdown penalty. He was up in the top 3 about a quarter of a lap ago, but now finds himself back in the 9th position.
Yeah, a little unsure what happened there, because I noticed him dropping a long way down on the run through turn 1 and exiting up towards 3. He was really off the pace, so presumably a slowdown through turns 13 and 14 there, which is very easy to do, especially in these cars where you're trying to get the car up over those curbs to keep it as settled as possible. So it'll be a little unfortunate, but being inside the top 10 still, he's got a long way to go to get himself up the front, but knowing how quick he is, he's certainly capable of doing it for the Mark 1 Esport guys.
Certainly Vandenberg looking up the inside, and Virtanen pretty much flick spinning it, and Himbree moving up a position up into the 8th position. So also Vandenberg having a little bit of damage from that slow mall contact, and that's going to allow Canavan to get up to the back of Vandenberg. He's got a little bit of damage himself, potentially collecting the wall. It's potentially very easy to scrape one of the walls, causing that damage. So Canavan is up 2 positions at the moment, same with Lecty up 3, Romain Leclerc up 6, so he's had an awesome run in these first couple of laps.
Oh, and we're seeing Lee Vandenberg just get served off into turn number 4 there. That's a huge spin, and I think that will damage that rear end of that car a little bit further as well. So we'll keep an eye on that to see whether he's able to get back underway. But up front, looks like Lecty pushing on in the retro livery there for DPR. Darren Lobb likewise not letting John Peasnick get away. Those guys are starting to open up a really solid advantage now over Schweitz tune of about 3.5 seconds right now. So they certainly got the pace in those Ferraris, and it was similar to what we saw at the AMF round. The Ferraris were very, very strong, and seeing that again tonight, really surprised to see Danny Davison though sticking with it up in the 4th spot as well. He's not too far off 3rd position right now either.
Yeah, certainly the Ferraris have been very, very strong this season overall, with the BMW having a balanced performance penalty added to it over the course of the last couple of seasons, with it being pretty strong. And you'll see that one of the Porsches around in the background, that's Luca Fiocchi, who's made a mistake on the final chicane towards the wall of champions.
Yeah, it looked like he just grabbed a little too much curb on the run through 14 there and looped it around. We'll jump on for a replay here just to see how easy it is for it to happen.
Oh, he just snagged the rear brake on the middle of the corner, and that's unsettled the car, and luckily he's able to turn it around in the runoff area. Finds himself behind Adrian Lecty at the moment, chatting up into turn 5 and 6.
Yeah, it looks like Sean Carvin just behind as well in the Ferrari, who we saw having a little bit of a battle with Lee Vandenberg only a couple of laps ago. So for you guys shuffling up and down the order, but this little battle here now sitting up for 9th, 10th and 11th on track position. You go to the wide shot there, and these guys not much separated between them at all, and a good mix of cars between the Ferraris and the 2 Porsches.
Yeah, absolutely. With Fiocchi running a little bit wide there, and the Canavan as well, taking a very, very tight line on the exit of the hairpin. It seems as though they're getting a fairly equal advantage, I suppose, with the traction that Porsche gets, but the top end speed that the Ferrari has makes it very, very difficult for the Porsches to get past. But you've got to get a really good exit out of that hairpin to be able to even challenge any car ahead, I suppose, as well. So Fiocchi putting a lot of pressure on Lecty at the moment, but Lecty's certainly coping with that pressure to his expectations, I suppose.
Yeah, he's holding on really, really well, which is great to see. He's doing everything he needs to do, placing the car exactly where it needs to be right now, and he'll continue on going as well as possible. I don't think he's really overdriving that car too much. It looks very, very settled on corner exit, whereas you see Fiocchi diving left and right, especially through the mid-corner, just changing up those lines a little bit, really trying to get into the head, but doesn't seem to be paying off too much right now.
Just going to have a look back at the GT3 field at the moment. But Clint Smith at the moment currently in the lead with a 2.3 second gap over Eric Thorpe in both in the Mercedes. Sven Beber, who's one of the first Audis in the GT3 category. So actually Audi's very well represented this week. Typically we only see one or two Audis out there, but having three tonight, certainly great to see that it's not always dominated by the Mercedes cars.
No, awesome to have some Audi representation out there tonight. I know both yourself and I, we talk about it a fair bit. It's a car we've had a fair bit of success in, and love seeing it out on track. So to have as many out there tonight as we do, it's quite refreshing to see. But these guys, third and fourth, really putting on a strong fight now with Kirst looking on the back of Beber, not able to get a move done in through 14, but trying to set up something into one.
Certainly the number 4 car of Cruz putting all sorts of pressure on Beber. Actually, Cruz had it was looking to have a strong result last week at Mosport, but sadly caught the final corner curb and sent him around early in the race. So he's certainly looking to have a much better result here at Montreal comparing to last week. Having said that, though, trying to make up the one position that he has lost in the first 9 minutes that has elapsed. Just a little bit further back as well, we've got Gabriel Rizzo putting all sorts of pressure on Adam Simpson. Gap as Simpson runs wide, that'll allow Rizzo up the inside. They're going to go side by side through the short little straight up into the hairpin, and Rizzo gets the job done through the power of the Mercedes. Got a little bit of front damage there. Must have had contact earlier on that we missed, sadly. But Rizzo up into 6th.
Yeah, surprising the damage not really slowing that Mercedes down too much at all. So got a nice move and run down into 10 and continuing on down the Casino Straight. He's going to hold that position down past the Wall of Champions. I think if anything, the Mercedes looks a little more planted as it gets down over the curbs, and with it resetting and getting off those curbs looks quite nice. So he should be able to gain a bit more of an advantage and extend that position from 6th, and it's going to make it very hard for Simpson in the Audi to come back at him, I think.
Yeah, certainly. And you got Jason Muscat trying to recover after his early spin on lap number 1 at turn 5 and 6, who moves up into the 24th position overall, and Schultz just holding up Maury, who was around at turn 2 on lap number 1. Certainly got to be diligent in where you try to overtake, because there's not much room if you make an error.
No, down through this middle portion of the circuit, the walls are very, very close together, and your corners sweeping back and forward as they see them go through now. In 8 and 9, there's not a lot of opportunity to pass, so you really got to be right up on that gearbox on the exit of the preceding corner to get up there and maybe try just that little bit later breaks we see down into 10. Thinks about showing the nose, actually gets it under, and looks like Schultz just sat up a little high and wide and allowed that pass to go on. So smart awareness there not to have both those cars end up in a little bit further contact.
Yeah, certainly with battles going on a little bit further up the field, we've got Christian Arzt gapping Romain Leclerc over 7/10 of a second at the moment. Last time for those two drivers, Arzt was doing a 1:35.1 and Leclerc with a 35.4, so 3/10 of a second gap, and that's only opening up even further now as the gap is up to 1.2 seconds.
Yeah, it looks like just a little bit slower there. You can see Peter Coulson trying to get a move done, and right behind this group you've got Clint Smith, the current leader of the GT3s, getting involved in it as well. So these guys are really starting to hold each other up. And looking at the lap times, we're seeing Clint Smith a little bit over 0.5 of a second faster than the guys ahead of him while they're battling. So the pace advantage right now is really with Smith as he works his way through. But we've seen that a lot throughout the season. He's been very, very good in that Mercedes and able to claw up a lot further up into that GTE field than what we've sort of really expected. And just in the back of frame there as well, you've got second position Eric Thorpe. So the leading contenders of GTE or GT3, sorry, really starting to get it amongst it with the GTE contingent.
Yeah, certainly. I'm just going to bring up a delta between Thorpe and Smith, and the gap stabilising at about 3.0 to 3.1 seconds. So just got to be careful there for Smith. This GTE traffic ahead of him potentially holding him up. See that he's got Barnabas Rana in between himself and Thorpe. But Clint definitely wanting to get through this GT traffic as fast as possible as the 27 car of Romain Leclerc around. An unfortunate mistake for him trying to get the power down. Mustn't have been looking after those tyres, or he must have unsettled himself going over that inside curb and the car bouncing around trying to put the power down.
Yeah, it's one of those easy things to do on the Exeter 7 because the way the corner opens out, it really invites you to stand on the power really, really early and get the most out of the car. But unfortunately, they're a little bit of a spin and throws it up the inside, which isn't really going to help him. He's going to drop a long way down that field. We'll keep an eye on where he does reform, but yeah, not ideal. But it's such an easy corner to loop those cars around, especially if you've got the traction control dialed down a little bit.
Certainly we've got Adrian Lecty down the pit lane, so he will be the first to blink of the front runners, so to speak, as he finds his pit box right now. Generally, you would, over the course of the season, we've seen drivers take fuel only as he leaves his box right now, so 9.4 second stop. So very, very quick stop for the Ferrari driver. Piesnik currently opening out a 1.9 second gap over Darren Lobb, so consistently pulling away. I'm just going to bring up the graphic right now. But in saying that though, over the past 5 laps, the gap has only really opened out, and it's about, on average, about 0.5 of a second per lap, so still very, very consistent between the two drivers, but Piesnik edging out a gap with a third of this race already elapsed.
Yeah, and for the viewers that know or John or have seen him race, he's very consistent, cool, calm, collected the way he gets around in these cars, and to only be just under 2 seconds off the back of him at this early point of the race is really, really good. I've seen some races where John's been really able to extend and get away from the field exceptionally good, but he's a great yardstick to use, and I think Darren's going to learn a lot sitting behind here. Not that he's not consistent. We know how good he was at AMF, where he actually built up quite a strong lead, but to have someone of sort of John's calibre around him as well is only going to help see him increase and push further on. So great to see right now.
Bring up a replay of an overtake that we missed at Andrew Himbree getting the job done on Christopher Vertinen up the inside at the final corner. You're trying to go too wide through there. It's definitely not ideal, but both of them making it through safely. Himbree up in the 7th place. And good job for him. I'll go back live now. Gap between these two drivers is still sitting at about 0.4 of a second. Vertinen all over the back of Himbree. Let's see what kind of an exit he gets out of the final corner. Oh, sorry, the final hairpin on the lap. Virtanen not getting the best of exits, but with the aid of the draft.
Yeah, if he's able to utilise the draft, he should be in a good position. I don't think he's going to be quite close enough to get a move completed here, but it was interesting watching both cars on the run-in through 10. They both seem to have a little bit of understeer mid-corner, which ultimately impacted them getting out on the exit there as good as expected. So I think the way they're going, they're just pushing maybe just a hair too much, and it's really starting to hurt that front end of the car. But Virtanen not that far behind, trying to get up, and you're seeing that gap really starting to funnel down and in through the tight and twisties.
You've got Lieberman Schweitz all over the back of Danny Davison, so Ferrari driver of Schweitz, Gille Racing driver, putting all sorts of pressure. Last time, 30.99, he was actually the fastest driver on the track, so getting all over the back of the BMW, trying to get a great exit and into the toe. It was actually 2/3 of a second quicker last time around, so that gap certainly closing up very, very quickly, and Davison going all defensive, having to put a car's width to prevent the overtake, and through the final chicane they go. Schweitz not getting the best of exits. That gap will open up very slightly. Let's see a couple of drivers exiting the pit lane as well. See that is, I think that's Jonathan Guenin at the moment, just ahead of these two drivers. So a little bit of traffic for the drivers of Davison and Schweitz just ahead.
Yeah, this is really good defensive driving by Davison. He's positioning that car really well. He's been the driver that's come on really, really strong throughout the course of this season. Has seen that both these guys just managed to clear that lap traffic, but yeah, really finding his feet in that BMW. It's a car that seems to suit him really, really well with his driving style, and he's only getting stronger and stronger, so great to see. And when you compare between Schweitz and Davison as far as the iron goes, and as we see Schweitz spinning in the background, I think he just locked those rear brakes up. That's a big difference there. We'll see whether he's able to get back under the track and whether he will lose the position, but that's going to release Davison here a little bit.
Yep, just going to bring up a replay right now. On board Schweitz at the moment. I think he just got a little bit too deep under brakes, and I think, was there a little tap there for going into Davison, which sent him a little bit off the circuit. It looks as though that he hasn't got a slow down penalty, but that lap traffic just getting ahead of him, and looks as though that he's pretty much giving the position back.
Yeah, I think Davison did run wide through there, so he would have picked up a slowdown as a result of seeing that car going around behind him. So it looks like he was able to get back underway without too much drama. But yeah, that was certainly a little bit of a position that he didn't really want to see going on, as we got Bruno Sprangler up on screen in the BMW. Finds himself in fifth, up one spot, probably a little further down ideally than where he wants to be right now. There's a bit of lap traffic and the lights are on to get them out of the way, but not a driver that we see a lot of in the service, and great to have him on board for what is traditionally a real-life driver for BMW Motorsports. So doing an absolutely great job out there.
Yeah, certainly. Sadly, though, that Spangler wasn't able to gain a position on Schweitz with the advantage that the Ferrari driver had. Currently, the gap is sitting at 4 seconds. Schweitz lost about 6.5 seconds the last time around with that mistake into the 8-9 chicane, as Piesnik is in, leader is in a little bit earlier than we expected, but certainly the mandatory pit stop being taken right now. We'll see how he filters out into traffic, and Lobb is our current leader at the moment. Davison 3 into second at the moment, as well as Schweitz jumping up into third position.
Yeah, I think it's probably a smart move from Piesnik to come in early. He had that little bit of lap traffic, as you can see up on screen now. That's the Mercedes of Rizzo in the way there, just clearing Lob, letting him through, but that will hurt him a little bit. So look to see, once the pit stops cycle through, I would expect Peasink to actually gain a little bit of an advantage overall. When we saw him come in, it was around that 2 second mark, so I wouldn't be surprised if that jumps to about the 2.5 to possibly even 3 second range.
Yeah, certainly see a couple of cars ahead for Peasink as well. I think that's Colin Hayes, Osmar Schultz, and Gabriel Rizzo just up ahead. So we'll have to see how these cars are negotiated for Peasink. Lob currently at the back straight. We'll see how he decides to take to the pit lane or whether he goes around for another lap. And it looks as though he'll go for another lap as well. So Lob is not going to try and cover off the earlier stop of Peasink. As we've got a couple of other drivers in the pit lane. Cruz, Thorpe, Muscat, Anderson and Rana.
You just got up on screen now the battle of Sean Carvin and Christopher Virienti. These guys have still been at it for a fair while now, scrapping over the 8th and 9th position on track. A little bit of damage still on both cars after that earlier contact for Carvin, and hopefully should be able to keep going. Neither of these drivers have come in for their stops, so look for them to potentially be in not this time by as we tick over 23.5 minutes elapsed in the race, so nearing half distance at the moment, and these two still scrapping on pretty well.
Yeah, certainly. Canavan actually a little bit quicker last time around, about 3/10 of a second, as Burton and running wide at turn 2 and promoting Canavan into the 8th position. Actually been a cracking race for Canavan, up 5 positions at the moment, so he's putting in a very, very strong performance here. As we can see the movers and shakers at the moment, Peasnik at the moment has lost 5 positions, but he is our effective leader through the pit stop phase, as Davison is in as well. So, and Lottinen into the pit lane as well, so a couple of drivers in as well for their stops on lap 16. Coming into 17. Other battles as well on the track. You've got Hendrik Cruz and Eric Thorpe. So Cruz getting the jump over Thorpe. It's actually a very, very good stop for Cruz as well. Sorry about that. 1 second gained through the pit stop as well. So certainly a great job for him moving up into the final podium position as well.
Yeah, really surprised to see that positional change, because there was a bit of a gap between both Cruz and Thorpe. So to see Eric drop down a little bit, not the best lap there for him, but he should come on strong. And we're keeping an eye on Eric over the last couple of years since he first started joining the season. He's been progressively getting stronger and stronger as he's gone through, and finds himself really familiar in these GT3 cars now. So he's pressing on quite well at the moment. And should, as the race unfolds, still 20 minutes to go, potentially should get himself back up into that second spot towards the back end of this one.
Certainly the Mercedes going deep under brakes, closing up. Gap currently at a half second. We'll see what the lap times are this time around. And pretty much identical, only a couple of hundredths separated between the two. 34.28 for Cruz and 35.25 for Thorpe. So only 300ths gained for Thorpe, but I need a little bit more than that, I think, to close up within the next 18.5 minutes and plus 1 lap. From where we are right now is we've got Zat Levenmich Schweitz coming up to the back of these two as well, so putting a lap on them.
Yeah, Thorpe's not really getting in the battle there as you see Schweitz with the lights flashing. I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue, but if he's not careful for Hendrick there, he could let Thorpe in. Just gets back in front to close that door off, so smart driving there to allow the car through and still retain that overall second position. Effective third position at the moment, as looks like both our class leader and second position in GT3 come in for their respective stops. Clint Smith and Sev Barber, both down for their stops as well. So we'll keep an eye on this to see where they unfold. I think we've got guys midway down Casino Straight at the moment. Smith yet to come down and park there, but on the way out, so that's an easy retained for him by the looks of it.
Yeah, certainly Beber is out on to the pit straight as well. We've got Cruz coming through right now. Going to have to negotiate turn 1. Beber is, I think, behind Cruz and Thorpe, so Beber having one of the quicker pit stops through the top 4. Ultimately not as good as Clint Smith. Having said that though, Clint took about 1.1 to 1.2 seconds less of fuel, so he would have gained significantly through that. But Beber finds himself in 4th position, Thorpe into 3rd, and Cruz into 2nd. And this gap's actually opened up quite substantially as well within the course of the last half a lap.
Yeah, not really sure what's going on with Thorpe there. He, as you say, right up on the back of the gearbox of Cruz at the start of the lap, going really defensive, maybe even having an issue with that car because he's now dropped another spot to Beber going through into 10. So potential slowdown for him there, but not a great run right now. So it'll be interesting to see what's taken place for him there because he's dropped a long way back.
Yeah, sadly I can't see anything on the timing screen. But see if we can go on board just quickly. Looks as though that he's up to speed, so it must have been potentially a slowdown penalty, as you say. Certainly unfortunate for Eric Thorpe, who finds himself out of the podium slots right now for that Swift racing car. As Coulson as well for one of the GTE category drivers who's out of the pit lane, so currently finds himself in 14th position in the GTEs at the moment and 19th overall. I wanted to see where Muscat is as well, so he'll clear Muscat out of the pit lane, so Coulson finds himself in 14th position, still up 5 positions from where he started, but ultimately don't think that is where he would have wanted to be at this stage of the race.
No, I'd expect both Coulson and Muscat much prefer to be further up. That being said, they still are gained respective spots from where they started, but yeah, a little further down ideally than where they would like to be. But the top half dozen cars still yet to come down the lane for their stop. Darren Loeb dives late into the lane now. I actually think he made a bit of contact with a car just ahead of him there. And that was the car, the 3.6. I'll have to get a number on that. Was it Andrew Lecterc? No, it was the Ferrari just behind him. And that was really unfortunate there on the run into the lane.
Yeah, absolutely. With the different braking zones, you've got to be careful of drivers actually wanting to take to the final chicane, and that may have potentially caught Darren Lobb out. See where Piesnik is actually at the moment. He's coming through the final corner. And I think Lobb may actually have to stay behind as Piesnik is coming through the first turn right now. Oh, and actually, as I say that, Lobb has jumped Piesnik, so even with a shorter stop for Piesnik, that certainly hasn't helped him. But we've got a cracking battle at the moment, under 15 minutes to go, and the battle is on between the top 2 Ferrari drivers, effectively. We've got Schweitz and Spengler, the front 2 to not have pitted as of yet.
Yeah, not really sure how Peasnick's come to be in that situation. It did see him around a little bit of traffic earlier on, which probably hasn't helped him there, but it looks like he is struggling a little bit too with the turn in and that Ferrari. So potentially gone a little hard on those front tyres, and ultimately maybe the balance just starting to shift away a bit at the back end of the race. He's still got 13 minutes left on the clock, so a lot of racing still left to go, but he doesn't quite have the pace at this point in time, as we see Schweitzer also jumping in the lane for his one and only stop at the moment as well, and that will leave one effective car still out there as Spangler likewise dives in as well. So those leading two cars down the lane for their respective stops now.
Yeah, the only two cars not to have pitted as of yet will be in very, very shortly. Marcelo Valente and I think Colin Hayes in the 23rd position overall, so they will be in very much momentarily. I think within the next lap or two. You haven't seen many cars extend much past the 35-minute mark this season. Having said that, though, tracks like Mid-Ohio, I've seen drivers pretty much extend to 37 minutes, I think, throughout this race. But with Montreal being typically a high fuel burn circuit, I've seen drivers come in a little bit earlier just to make that fuel stop to the end.
Yeah, that's not a bad way to go. I mean, we know with the smaller circuits, I think, as you say, Mid-Ohio, it was one of the Fords going around quite long into that race. We're not really seeing a lot of Ford participation in this series at the moment. I think knowing how much that's changed for that car since last season, the Ferrari certainly become more dominant. But for the guys that are really able to get the most out of those fuel numbers, you can really get some great advantage in running long and potentially even just winding down the fuel mix a little bit, staying in the draft as much as possible, and take that advantage a little bit later on in the form of a shorter stop. But currently at the moment, the first three drivers, two on screen at the moment in the form of Darren Lobb and John Peasnick, and Danny Davison likewise moved himself up into that third spot as well. So those three are pressing on pretty well, but a pretty big gap between first and second, and then dropping back another 16 seconds into third.
Certainly Peasnick closing in 4/10 of a second last time around, 31.77 for Lobb and a 31.37 for Peasnick. So Peasnick certainly turning up the wick at this stage of the race. Certainly with that lighter fuel load, he's at 1.4 seconds less of fuel, but will that be enough to be able to get home? We've seen that there is potential for, obviously, to go an extra lap, and whether Peasnick has got the fuel, we'll have to see.
Yeah, I'll certainly be watching that with bated breath. A little bit of lap traffic just coming into play here now. So Sven Bauer just getting out of the way and letting these two continue on. Another BMW sitting high and wide there. So smart awareness from the guys at the back of the field. We saw Eric Thorpe through at the middle of the course as well, stepping aside and letting this great battle unfold up front.
So that was Christian Ahartz, the BMW driver, number 33 car in the 12th position in class, jumping out of the way there, and Peasnick actually taking quite a little curb there and getting a run out of the final corner. Lobb having to cover. That'll send Peasnick around the outside. It's certainly not ideal going too wide through turn one, but Lobb going defensive. Great car positioning there to prevent the overtake from Peasnick. Another 4/10 of a second gain for Peasnick last time around, but with that defensive move from Lobb, that certainly opened up the gap back out to where it was.
Yeah, and Lobb right now just positioning that car exactly where he needs to, maybe just braking it a little bit harder mid-corner to slow Peasnick up and give himself a little bit of a run advantage. But that move into one, certainly the closest we've seen between these two for a little while lately, and starting to really apply the pressure. And we know Peasnick from previous series can be very, very hard customer to try and get through. But it looks like he maybe going to slow down as well. That gap massively extended now, 2.5 seconds in the form of one corner there.
Yeah, that was definitely unfortunate for Peasnick. I'd like to see if I can go. back. See if I can get a bit of a replay right now. Under the bridge it goes into turn 9. It just takes a little bit too much of that entry curb. And yeah, gains that slowdown. Certainly unfortunate for Peasnick. Gap opened it up to 2.7 at the moment. Actually closing down to about 2.3 at the moment. Running a bit wider there at turn 2. Making that mistake, so costing him even more.
Yeah, and John will be really kicking himself over that move. You just see a little running wide into turn 1 there, and he'll be bitterly disappointed to have dropped that much time off the back of Darren Lobb. A little further back in the field, Jason Muskrat working on the back of Peter Coulson. A little bit of lap traffic just in front for these two as well to contend with. So you see Coulson getting very forceful, trying to push that BMW through, and Muscat likewise following suit.
Obviously just trying to work out who that Mercedes driver was as he's into the barrier. Maybe not a fan of the that move that was put on him at turn 2. But yeah, Muscat trying to put all sorts of pressure on Coulson. This gap at the moment is at 0.7 of a second and closing with the Ferrari in the draft.
And have we missed something that happened to Darren Lobb as well? Because that gap's closed back down again between himself and Peasnick by the looks. I still see it fluctuating a bit. Maybe it's just my timing going a bit funny. I thought it dropped all the way back down to 0.4 of a second. I was going to say that was incredibly quick for those two drivers. But it looks like we're stabilising again back around that 2.5 second mark now. So we'll stick with this battle for Muskrat and Coulson down the casino straight. They're really going after it with just over 7 minutes still left on the clock.
Also further up in the field that Schweitz and Spangler about equidistant as this battle is as well for the 4th and 5th position as well. So if Muscat can't get the job done within the next couple of corners, we'll move up to the front. Also Canavan and Fiocchi as Muscat up the inside at turn 1, so great move for him on the inside of Coulson, who promotes himself up into the 12th position in class. 15th, sits 15th overall at the moment. Canavan and Fiocchi at the moment. It looks as though that Fiocchi was able to get the job done with the overrun. Canavan sensibly jumping out of the way. That Porsche getting good traction out of the final hairpin there. See that there must be a bit of lap traffic. I think that might be Vandenberg.
Yeah, I think that's Lee Vandenberg just getting back after his earlier misfortune. So great to see him still trying to get that car back around and be classified as a finisher, but certainly not a race to remember for him. Well down the order, down in 29th position, or 19th position I think it is at the moment, so he's a long way down.
Yeah, certainly. Just giving a bit of an update on the GT3 battle at the moment. Clint Shane Smith currently leading in the Mercedes, who has a 9.3 second gap over Hendrik Cruz in second, and 2.2 seconds further back is Sven Beber. Just trying to see what happened to Eric Thorpe. He's had a bit of an incident, potentially.
Yeah, Sean Thorpe a long way down the back of the order now, down in 26th position at the moment, so not sure what's happened to him. He had a very slow lap, I think it was a couple of laps ago, and looks to be a bit of damage on that car, more so than what we saw earlier on, so that's really unfortunate for him. Other than that, it looks like Spangler's starting to go. He's up on the back of Schweitzer as well. The battle for 4th position overall's really starting to heat up, just under 5 minutes left on the clock between these two, and going to be interesting to see what kind of pressure Spangler can really start applying on the back of Schweitzer.
Yeah, Spangler was actually 0.6 of a second quicker last time around, so potentially looking after those tyres a lot better than Schweitz. with that half spin at turn 8 and 9 earlier on in the race, probably about 15 minutes ago. So that BMW of Spengler certainly protecting the tyres as best as he can. Got just under 3 minutes to go plus 1 lap, so with Lob heading up to the back of, I think it's turn number 5 now, who's putting a lap on Clint Smith at the moment. And actually Lieberman Schweiz gained 300s over Spengler last time around, so it looks as though that Schweiz has been able to turn up the week now and getting a bit of a rhythm under his belt to protect that 4th position within the last couple of minutes of the race.
Yeah, definitely. Just watching Spengler's car down and through the first complex, down through 1, 2 and 3. The car maybe struggling just a little bit on mid-corner turn-in and traction exit. And that's ultimately losing him a little bit of advantage. But back through the last half of the circuit, as we watch him flow down through 8 and 9, he's got the car working pretty nicely, it must be said, and that gap's starting to come back down again as they run into 10. So maybe yielding a little bit more to the back end of the circuit for the extra grip on the car. As you see, Schwartz just a little bit wider, maybe 1.5 feet off the apex there on turn-in, but Spengler's starting to come at him. But the big thing we've seen throughout the entire season, regardless of whether it's been IMSA or AMF or a couple of the other championships that we do watch, the BMW has been incredibly strong on the tyres, especially over the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. We're closing into the second to last lap for these two. And Schweiz opened up a 200th gap as well, so they've been fairly consistent over the last couple of laps. Gap opened up to about 1 second. Closing back down to a 0.9. Potentially Spengler got a bit of extra traction there over Schweitzer.
Yeah, we need to keep an eye up front too. It looks like Darren Lobb's starting to lose a little bit of that advantage that he had over John Peasnick as well. That gap has closed back down a little further. You can see Peasnick on screen. Not much between those guys, as Peasnick's working on the back of Clint Smith here at the moment, so positional change, and Clint sitting 10th overall. That Ferrari maybe just a little unhappy at the moment through the mid portion, but yeah, certainly at the moment something potentially going on for Loeb, because he did slow quite a little bit in that mid run through 9 and 10.
So with 10 seconds left on the clock, Darren Loeb forcing the extra lap as Adam Simpson is into the pit lane. So that'll be a second stop for him. Sadly did not take enough fuel to get to the end. Just looking for any other further battles on the track, as Spengler not able to get the extra lap in, so sadly he's short filled. He was actually one of the quickest drivers through the pit lane through the first stop. So sadly he will have to come through the pit lane for a splash and dash.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate for him. We'll keep an eye just to see how long he does sit stationary with getting back underway, but that potentially will be his race one, or done there, as it looks like he's still sitting in the lane some 40 seconds elapsed right now, so we'll keep an eye on that, but could be the end of this one for him. Darren Lobb working his way down the casino straight for the final time tonight, and got himself a even bigger lead over the back of Peasnick now, so been a very commanding run from Loeb, who would have loved this in AMF a couple of weeks ago, but able to get a fantastic win tonight here in the IMSA series.
Yeah, certainly Loeb will take the checkered flag here for the final round of the season of the IMSA Sportscar Championship, and congratulations to the DPR driver. And Peasnick will take second place for himself, and also Danny Davison a further 7 seconds back. So that is the GTE podium positions, and it looks as though that Clint Smith has taken the checkered flag as well for the GT3. So congratulations to him and CSC Sports driver. Also trying to see if I can find Hendrik Cruz and Sven Beber. I think they've already crossed the line for those two drivers, so that'll round out the GT3 podium. We've got Luca Fiocchi at the moment coming through the hairpin. Still a strong performance for him, up 3 positions, but what could have been with that spin at the World Champions early on in this race could have been up potentially 5th or even 4th place. But he will round the final corner and come across the line in the 6th position. And I think that the last car on the track at the moment to take the checkered flag will be Adrian Lechty. And we've got, I think that's Bruno Spengler around at the final corner as well. So I think actually,
Yeah, it looks like Lechty will actually gain a spot there, coming home in 8th, and Bruno Spengler home in the 9th position. So Bruno having that late stop really dropped him well down the order.
absolutely. But I think with that, we'll be able to take you through the final race results for 2019 Season 4 here at Montreal. And Darren Lobb takes the win over John Peasnick, 9.4 second gap. I think that gap was extended by a couple of slowdown penalties that Peasnick had incurred, or potentially traffic in the end. But yeah, certainly congratulations to those two drivers, and also to Danny Davison rounding out the podium, 16 seconds back from the eventual winner. Lubomir Schweitz in the 4th position, Ville Lotinen taking out the 5th position, Luca Fiocchi 6th, Sean Canavan, very, very strong performance from him, finishes 7th, Adrian Lechty in 8th, Bruno Spengler, sadly with that mistake there at the final corner on the last lap, takes 9th position, rounding out the 10th position overall, and GT3 winner Clint Smith, very, very dominant win for him over the GT3 field. Marcelo Valente finishes 11th position. Hendrik Cruz takes the 12th position overall, but crucially in the 2nd position in the GT3 category. Adrian Himbry finishes 13th. Sven Beber takes 14th, and the final podium position in the GT3s. Jason Muscat 15th. Trevor Anderson 16th. Christian Arst in the 17th position. Gabriel Rizzo in 18th. Osmar Schultz 19th, and rounding out the top 20 was Peter Coulson. Adam Simpson 21st, Colin Hayes 22nd, Mick Grieve 23rd, Barnabas Rana, Jonathan Guignon in the 25th position, Kyle Ridley 26th, 27th is Eric Thorpe. What could have been for him, who finishes well down the GT3 order, sadly finishes in the 27th position overall. Christopher Vertinen in the 28th position. 29th, Lee Vandenberg, sadly with his contact earlier on in the race, what could have been for him, he was looking very, very strong in this race. Pateri Alto in the 30th position, Chris Taylor 31st, Romain Leclerc, Jason Proctor, Livio Mori, Werner Wiley, Chris Harvey, Ankit Tiagi, Victor Suarez, and Zach Meyer rounding out the field here today.
And with that, we might move on to driver interviews. Looks like we got GT3 class winner Clint Smith up in the booth there, so we'll bring him in and find out how things went for him. G'day, Clint. Congratulations, mate. Another win in the IMSA category. That's quite a few on the trot for yourself tonight, and looking as strong as ever in that Mercedes AMG GT3.
Yeah, g'day guys. Yeah, no, it was good night. I really enjoyed tonight. It was a bit hairy with a few of those GTE cars, but But yeah, other than that, it's really good. I didn't know what was going to happen in that one because Thorpe was staying pretty close to me during most of that, and I had more pace than the GT cars in front of me. I just couldn't get past. So I saw him closing in and in and in, and I was just like, oh, I just stopped myself from being impatient and do a stupid move. But yeah, a really fun night.
Well, yeah, it was great to see the likes of Eric coming up and giving you a bit of a run. Probably a little bit something you've missed throughout the course of the season, being able to gain some pretty big advantages in most of the race that we've seen. But yeah, he certainly kept you honest for quite a ways there. And then, unfortunately, a couple of issues, and I think might have been an off track or potential spin dropped him back down the order. But after that, you found yourself up in the GTEs again, and looks like you're having a bit of a good scrap with a few of those cars, trying to work your way through as well.
Yeah, no, it was really good as well. A lot of the GT guys, they were pretty respectful as well. Went up the inside of the hairpin towards the back straight. I think I put about 3 passes on that corner, so each one of them gave me room. So yeah, no, good respect shown between obviously myself and the GT guys. So really good.
Yeah, definitely. And one final thing we might touch on before we let you go. I know you made a little bit of song and noise about it on Facebook earlier in the week. Congratulations on cracking the 5K. Well done. And looks like consistency is certainly proven to be the key to getting well up.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, I set myself a goal at the start of the season. I was on 3,800. I set myself a goal. You know what? I want to get to 5,000. And yeah, I pretty much achieved that. So I'm really happy. I mean, a few people were a bit, let's say they reckon that the way I achieved it isn't right because I've been doing it in IMSA and GT3. But at the end of the day, I'm racing what I enjoy to race. I love GT3 and I love multi-class racing. So unfortunately, this is the only option I have. As well as I'm looking at the championship as well. Perspective, I think I'm currently running 9th overall in the GT3 category. So my goal was to finish top 10. So if I have to do 6-7 races a week to try and bank as many points as I can, yeah, I'll do it. So because obviously being the Australian racing in a European style car, it's very hard to find those really high point playing races unless you're racing at 3:30 in the morning. So you have to try and get the points wherever you can. And yeah, so but a big thanks to you guys at Apex as well. Obviously, with you guys hosting the broadcast on Tuesday nights, it draws out a lot more people to race. So that boosts the SOF up and allows us Australians to have a fighting chance of possibly beating the Europeans. So yeah, big thanks to you guys.
Certainly, mate. I think a lot of the Aussies would follow your sentiments there. It's great to see the popularity of this series, especially coming up over the past few seasons, and likewise yourself leading the charge for the Aussies, especially in the GT3 at the moment. But before we let you go and enjoy the celebrations, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out and thanks?
Yes, as always, you guys. Stellar job covering all the races this year. So big thanks to you guys. Obviously, CSE Sports, that's my own team. Kokoda Factory, who done my livery, which I've been racing since round 3. So yeah, can't thank them enough for producing this stellar work. Virtual Racing School has been absolutely temperamental to me reaching that 5,000 I rating. Just viewing my own data against one of their drivers. So not necessarily haven't been using their setups, just using the data purely, and you've seen the difference it makes. So anyone that's looking at doing something similar, I definitely recommend Virtual Racing School. And Joel Real Timing, obviously that helps me so much with strategy on the fly. Like originally at the start of the race tonight, I had 40 litres set to go in the car. I reduced that down to 35 litres, noticing how much I fuel save behind those GT cars. So Joel Real Timing helps me change this, the strategies on the run. So yeah, big thanks to Joel Real Timing. So, but yeah, those guys get it done for me. So yeah.
Fantastic, mate. Well, again, congratulations on everything throughout the course of the season. It's been a fantastic run for you so far, and hopefully going into week 13, you get a little bit of a reprieve and a break and a mindset, and all going well. We'll catch you back again next season.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, guys.
And that was Clint Smith, GT3 class winner tonight. Scott, doesn't look like we've got anyone else up in the booth, mate. Is there any final thoughts for yourself on how tonight?
Absolutely, we've seen a cracking race here tonight, as we've seen throughout the course of the season. Certainly very appreciative of the drivers being able to turn up at this early European time slot, 8:45 GMT, with the also with the time slot change as well, with Australian daylight savings time being in effect since round 5, if I recall correctly. So full credit to all the drivers that have been showing up and participating throughout the whole season. Certainly looking forward to heading into the Christmas break and into season 1 of 2020. We're waiting on confirmation of the schedule for next season, but certainly looking forward to covering season 1 of 2020 here on Apex Racing TV as always.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as you say, racing has been absolutely fantastic throughout the course of the season. I think all the drivers have done an outstanding job. Similar to last time, we didn't really see a huge amount of that the Daytona prototype out there. I know we had Blake Neck run it a couple of times, but overall, I think all in all, the participation between both GT and GT3 has been absolutely fantastic as always.
Yeah, I did put a quick message out there to Darren Lobb as well, our GTE winner here tonight, so see if we can quickly grab him in for an interview if we can as well. Welcome, Darren, to the commentary box here on Apex Racing TV. Congratulations on your win here tonight. Certainly had a lot of pressure there from John Peasnick earlier on, but just tell us a little bit about your race from your perspective, if you could.
Yeah, thanks, boys. It's nice to get a win like this during this stage of the week. Been battling against John for most of the SSA season this year, and he switched across to Ferrari, and Montreal's been the only place that I've been able to kind of stick around with him. He's given me a smoking everywhere else, but yeah, pretty good race. It was a really good field, and kind of dodged him from about halfway through the race, and I noticed John hard off to the pits early, and I thought, geez, do I follow him or do I brave the traffic and carry on going? And that obviously ended up being the better route.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw that Peasnick had a very, very quick stop in his pit stop phase. I think it was about a 1.4 second pit stop delta. Were you worried about incoming traffic up ahead, or were you just trying to focus on trying to clear it as quickly as you could?
I was trying to have a look at the F3 and the relative to see what the guys ahead were doing, but the biggest thing that worried me was there were a number of yellow flags and cars that spun out and all in front of me after John pitted, and I thought that was going to be my undoing. So when I hopped into firstly when I went into the pits, I caught a back marker down the back straight, and I was having quite a run into the pits, and I actually just back the back marker. 2 wheels on the dirt heading into the pits, and I think that cost me a little bit in terms of the pit transit. It didn't seem to make any change to the handling of the car afterwards, but I was pretty nervous at that stage. I thought I'd smoke my opportunity to get a good win.
Yeah, absolutely. We just caught that on the back of the broadcast, I think, as you were coming into the pit lane, so thanks for clarifying with that one. But yeah, heading into season 1 of 2020, are we likely to see you around for this time slot next season?
Yeah, I'd love to. It's actually a pretty good slot for me. I've moved across to New Zealand from South Africa nearly a year and a half ago. So it's trying to get used to these time slots now and racing with different guys and that. But I must say the community's been fantastic, and these broadcasted races are fantastic. So it gives you something really fun to do in the evenings and kind of get rid of the work stresses that you bring home and the ones you wake up with in the next morning. So yeah, I'll definitely be around. I'll make sure we get into the slot as often as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. We noticed you over the course of this season as well with the AMF GT as well. Certainly looking forward to seeing if you are around for the final round of the championship at Silverstone. Are we lucky to see you there as well?
Yeah, I'll definitely do that. I've put a lot of time and effort into SSA this season. I've joined the guys across in DPR Racing, and I must say it's been a fantastic move just getting into a team. It's made things a little bit easier. more competitive. You know, we kind of spur each other on every week. The only thing I've got to get right now is just getting in touch and getting in tune with the different leagues that are running. I had a once-off run in AMF. It must have been about a week or two ago in Montreal as well, which was great fun. Having Shane Van Gisbergen in there with us as well. So I'll definitely hop in. The last SSA round was at Silverstone and it went really well. So I'll definitely try hop into the AMF and end the season on a high before we all head off into the Christmas holidays.
Yeah, absolutely. With AMF GT as well here on Apex Racing TV, that'll be on Sunday, 9:45 a.m. GMT, 20:45 Australian Eastern Standard Time. Oh, Daylight Savings Time, sorry. But yeah, Darren, just before we let you go, mate, is there anyone you would like to thank before we let you go?
Oh, just thank the guys and the team that I'm part of now, the DPR Racing guys. They've been a fantastic, really, really welcome me in. Albeit with my accent. Let me just say thanks to you guys for hosting these races and all the hard work you put into. Definitely looking forward to the last round of AMF. It's been a great season so far. All the guys in our team have really enjoyed it.
No worries. Well, thanks very much, Darren, for jumping on at the very last second. I certainly wish you all the best for the final round of the AMF GT on Sunday, and certainly looking forward to seeing you then.
Fantastic, guys. Thanks for all your hard work. Appreciate it.
Yep, no worries.
See you then. Cheers.
So that was Darren Lobb, DPR racing driver and our GTE winner. Last second interview. It was actually great to have Darren jumping on for an interview as well, so to catch his perspective of the race. But yeah, just as we were going through our closing thoughts of the season, yeah, what were your any other closing thoughts that you had, Dan, for this season and then heading into season 1 2020?
No, look, I'm really looking forward to seeing what the guys are going to bring coming into 2020. I think the little bit of a break coming up into Christmas is going to be great for everyone. They've put on some absolutely fantastic racing throughout the course of this season and last. So, if anything, it's only going to go from strength to strength. And hopefully, with coming out of week 13, we'll be interested to see what kind of updates iRacing is able to bring out, not only to the service, but also both the DPI, GTE, and GT3 cars. So I think it's going to make for a really, really interesting season 2020.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly have to see how the schedule is with the Christmas holidays as well, with some people going away, myself included, sadly. So we'll see how the coverage will be in terms of getting broadcasts out there as well in this time slot. Just a bit of a warning ahead. We're certainly looking to cover the same time slot as we have 8:45 GMT when Australian Standard or Eastern Daylight Savings Time is in effect, but also when Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time is not in effect, it'll be the 10:45 GMT slot. But also want to give a huge shout out to all of the participants that have been coming through the series over the past 3 to 4 seasons that we've been covering this as well. To think it's been, I think, almost a year that we've been covering this, so huge credit to everyone that's been participating in the series in this time slot, and also to yourself, Dan, and Brad, and I think Chan Wei Han as well, being able to cover the series as well. So huge community event, and certainly looking forward to seeing what's coming up in season 1 of 2020. But yeah, I think that will pretty much close up the broadcast here tonight, and for the final round of the IMSA Sportscar Championship as well. I certainly want to thank Dan Leet as always, and certainly being able to cover throughout the season as well as Brad Clink and Chan Wei Han as well. Certainly want to thank everyone for tuning into the broadcast as well, and also the drivers that have been able to participate throughout the whole season. Certainly looking forward to your company in season 1 of 2020, and certainly looking forward to your company. I think it's on the Tuesday the 10th of December, which will be round number 1 of... Sorry, yeah, it'll be Tuesday the 10th. 8:45 GMT will be the first round of the IMSA Sportscar Championship. So looking forward to your company then. My name is Scott Newton, and on behalf of Daniel Leet, I was certainly looking forward to your company then. Take care.